sensational eaters! I'm Lloyd, food sanity coach, and it's Friday! Friday's the day that I answer your questions about eating challenges that you're experiencing. And today we've got a great question from Jenny about emotional eating. Want to hear it?
Dear Laura, I want to know how to change my mindset so that I am no longer turning to food for comfort or to stay awake or to keep things interesting or to stuff emotions down. I find that I use food in all of these areas where it's not, where it should be. Eating should be coming from a place of hunger and needing the fulfillment to move on throughout your day. And I just can't seem to understand that when I'm having a tough time. Stressful events, being tired, all of those things make me turn to food instead of tuning into what really needs to be taken care of. And I know that I need to do this, but it's the implementation that I have a tough time with. I've read all the answers everywhere. It's just in those moments when my mind is saying, go get another snack, or I get up in the middle of the night and decide to come downstairs and make myself something to eat. What can I do in those moments? What can I change that will make me see that there's something else that needs to be done, and it doesn't have anything to do with food? I really appreciate your advice. Thanks.
Thank you, Jenny, for the way that you opened your heart to us. And it's so brave of you to speak it out in your own voice. And if you have a question for me, by the way, I'll be telling you at the end of this video how you can post that to me. I have a really easy button on my website where you can post it, and you just speak to it. It doesn't cost you anything, and it records your voice so that I can hear it in your words. And Jenny, your words are so powerful. So let's figure this out. Jenny. There's so much in the question that you posed to me. Do you feel that? There are a lot of things. And whenever there's a lot of things, I think overwhelm. And if you feel frozen and not knowing exactly what to do in any one moment, I think you're trying to deal with quite a lot of things there. And part of that, to my mind, comes from that myth about emotional eating, that it's one thing. I don't think emotional eating is one thing, Jenny. Why you eat when you're bored, and why you eat when you're tired, and why you eat when you have stressful life events might be kind of different parts of the picture. Just as when you're a smoker and you're trying to give up smoking, you're not breaking one habit, you're not breaking smoking, you're breaking the habit of having a cigarette with your morning coffee. And then you're breaking the habit of having your cigarette when you're in the car, and your habit of having a cigarette with a beer in the evening. You're breaking lots of habits, and our eating habits are actually probably, I don't know, if I was going to guess, I'd say about 40 different habits. So we think it's eating, it's all the same thing. I don't think it is. I think there's lots of eatings. And if you were to sit down, Jenny, and list out all of the things that you are doing that are making you feel uncomfortable about your eating, you might find that you've got a few different things to work with there. Okay, and you mentioned a few: boredom eating, tired eating, stressed out eating, emotional overwhelm eating. Okay, And all of those kind of do have something in common. I'm not saying they don't. And that thing, I guess, is what Brené Brown calls numbing, or taking the edge off, trying to blunt the sensation of aliveness because it's a little bit too much. You also say that it's not right, that you must only, or you should only, be eating when you're hungry and not getting up in the middle of the night to eat emotionally. And I gotta say, that should about emotional eating is pretty toxic. You know? We've attached a lot of shame to this thing, I'm an emotional eater. It's like, I'm weak, I'm broken. And as if it's morally wrong to eat emotionally. I mean, yeah, it would be great if most of our eating was according to our real physical hunger. But isn't it normal to have some emotional eating in your life? I think it is. I think that's all right. And I think trying to stop it and put the brakes on it is the wrong way to go. So what can we do? Instead of trying to stop it, how about we get really creative? How about we get really inspired? And when we're inspired, we're full of another kind of emotion. And I think it's desire. It's kind of possibility. It's power. And it's all that emotion that makes us take action. And you want to know in practical terms what the action is in that moment that you can do. And I'm going to say to you, Jenny, that you could take a step back from that moment and do some work behind the scenes there. Do some work not in that moment that might make that moment actually pop up less often for you. And if it does, might give you a few questions that you can guide yourself through that moment with, that let that moment become a gift for you, a gift with loads of information about your heart and soul and what needs feeding. I think that you could peel the onion here. And what I mean by that is you could peel away the layers of your feelings. So it's not enough to just know that I am bored. How do you know that you're bored, Jenny? What is it that tells you that you're bored? What does that feel like? How do you know in your body that you're bored? How does it feel in your body to be bored? And why is being bored a problem? Is it because you're not doing work that's not meaningful enough? What would meaningful feel like? Peel the onion further, dig deep, find out why these feelings aren't okay for you. And when you do that, you might find your way down to a level of something that you can work with, which will have an effect not just on your eating, but on your whole sense of wellness in your world. You know, I did a parenting course a while ago with a woman called Jackie Hall, and she teaches a great thing that is called the fountainhead method. Now, a fountainhead method, as I understand it, says that when we're stressed, there's a bunch of thoughts that go with it. And you need to know that, Jenny, that these feelings aren't just kind of lodged in you on their own. They're hand in hand with a bunch of thoughts that you're having about them. And thoughts that cause stress tend to fall into 4 different lenses that you're seeing the world through. And one of those lenses is in the fountainhead method, and I think this is damn right, one of those lenses is this shouldn't be happening, or I shouldn't be doing that. And if you're thinking, I shouldn't be eating, whilst you're eating emotionally, you're already in one of those lenses. Do you get me? Another one of those is, I'm missing out. If you're bored and you're at work, you interrogate what's going on in your head while you're bored. Chances are you're having thoughts of, I'm missing out. I should be doing a better job. I'm stuck here doing this mundane thing. I'm missing out on something more meaningful. Stress. A third lens would be, this is not what my right life looks like. This is not what my idea of my right life looks like. This is not, doesn't fit with my life plan, my life images. And that's really useful, because those life images, those ideas of a right life, can be your source of inspiration, or they can be a kind of measuring stick of perfection where you beat yourself up for not having accomplished where you think you should be. And sometimes that idea of our right life is really historical and isn't actually being updated. Do I really believe that I'm not living up to something? Who says I should live up to it? When did I decide that this was the bar I should be living up to? And the fourth lens is the most powerful, because underneath it all, right at the core of the onion, is almost always this feeling of, I am, or my life is, worth less. I'm bored. This is not the job I should be doing. My life is worth less. I shouldn't be eating. I am worth less. And sometimes that manifests for us as worthless, and sometimes that feels just like worth less than whatever I'm measuring myself against, okay? And it's really important to understand that underneath all of this stuff, when you get down to that layer of mud at the bottom of the sea, that centre of the onion, is this sense of worthlessness. How can I create worth in myself? And some of that worthlessness simply comes from us separating ourselves from ourselves. So this idea of taking the edge off or numbing yourself is creating a separation with yourself. And that makes you feel crap. And when you reconnect with yourself, when you self-connect, which is my word for self-love, you get back on track and you get your worth back. And it's humble, but it's real, it's authentic. You know that feeling after you've had a cry with a friend? And you don't feel small anymore. You don't feel pitiful and shitty. You feel open and vulnerable and kind of clean and all right. And that is reconnection. Sometimes it really helps to engage our creativity and engage our visual imagination. And so I'm going to put this to you because I think this might connect with you even better than a bunch of words, okay? This comes from a really great book called The Gift of Our Compulsions by a woman called Mary O'Malley. And how Mary O'Malley talks about feelings is that she describes our psyche as being like a house and that we fear our feelings. We shove them down into the cellar and we close the door on them. And as we all know, things that are dark in the cellar we daren't look at because it's too dark and spooky down there. And they assume such freaky fear-inducingness because they're in the cellar, because they're in the dark, because they've got the door closed on them. And if we actually let those feelings come up the stairs, out of the cellar, and stand on the floor in front of us, we see that they are not big ghosties. They are actually vulnerable little children who just need to be seen. You know how you're kids or kids you know will sometimes be at the play park and they're on the swing or they're climbing something and they're calling you all the time. And it's not because they want you to push them on the swing. What they're actually saying is, look at me, look at me, look at me, look what I can do, look at me, see me. And all they want is to be seen. The power of your attention and what you pay attention to, Jenny, is healing power in its own right. Seeing, acknowledging your tender parts in the moment when they're coming up for you and pushing you towards food could be the split second that's all you need. How can we acknowledge our feelings? How can we even feel them when it all happens so fast? And we don't even notice there's a feeling there to feel. All we notice is that we're walking to the fridge again. Well, I think the answer to this is a kind of answer, I guess, that comes more to people who have a spiritual practice, because they take space for quiet contemplation. And I guess I have had to learn this my own way, because I didn't have a religion, but I've learned that I reconnect with my heart and soul and body and spirit in a little bit of silence. It's that simple. And that could be a park bench where I'm not listening to music and I'm not playing with my phone, like undistract. I just sit for a few minutes. You could do that on your sofa. You could do that in a special place or an unspecial place. All you're being asked to do is to turn the searchlight of your attention back into your body. To just ask yourself very simply, what are my tender bits right now? Which part of me feels vulnerable? Which part of me needs a little love? Which part of me hurts? And then to just put your hand on your heart and say for a second, for this minute, can I let this be? You don't have to go and punch a pillow or write a letter that you burn or do any crazy voodoo. You've just opened up a little space where you're connecting to your emotions. And that's all you are being asked to do in these moments. And then I would say you can go and eat your midnight snack if you want to. Because over the course of time, the more you feel, the more you use your inspiration and curiosity to grow bit by bit your ability to reconnect with yourself. The less and less you'll feel the need to go to the fridge, or the more you'll want to stay with yourself and the less you'll want to get away from it. And the getting away from it, the urge to get away from it, has got such a lot in it. The urge to get away from it has got so much information to give to you, Jenny. If you will ask yourself, who says I have to get away from it? And then you find that somehow these things have been learnt out of survival. For example, I grew up feeling that it wasn't always okay to express my emotion. And it's only as an adult that I've discovered that part of my mum's inability to tolerate that was that she's really hypersensory and finds the experience of listening to crying so excruciating that she just kind of wants it to stop. I can throw lashings of forgiveness at that. And I understand that rule I made myself, that I mustn't, that it wasn't safe to express my emotions, is something that I must revisit. The experience of having emotions and expressing them and proving to myself that that's part of my truth and that I'm grown up and I can do that now. Jenny, you already have such awareness. You can see yourself doing these things that aren't totally in your favour. And one by one, you can start to put your curiosity and your creativity to work to get to grips with what's underneath them. You can learn to disrupt the habit that's linking your eating and your feeling together. I used to eat a lot when I was tired. Sometimes I still do, but sometimes I just fill a hot water bottle and take myself to bed these days. You shouldn't expect ourselves to be able to function at our best under shitty circumstances. So if you're working late, then it's not the eating that's the problem, it's the working late. And if you have a lot of stress in your life, it's not the eating because you're stressed that necessarily needs solving, it's the stress. Why would we expect ourselves to be able to resist food when we're not prepared to go under the surface and deal with the real problem? It just feels easier, doesn't it, just to fix the food, right? And it's not easy, it's not easy. It's not easy because the food is not the problem. So Jenny, do you want me to do a recap? Okay. First thing, list out all of these different eating habits, these eatings, okay? And take them as separate and deal with just one at a time. Second, peel the onion. I feel this, bored. Why is that? How does it feel? What do I really need? What am I really hungry for? What am I really desiring in this moment? See your thoughts that are creating your feelings. Those thought lenses. I shouldn't, he shouldn't, she shouldn't. I'm missing out. This isn't my right life. And underneath it all, I am, or it is, worth less. Before, if there's a reason historically why you took on a belief that you shouldn't express your emotion, let go of it now. Forgive, move on, heal. Number 5, use silence and getting quiet for little pockets of time to give yourself self-connection and get curious about what's vulnerable in you and what needs your attention. Create that getting quiet spiritual practice, sitting with it. It can be 2 minutes at a time. Just take a little space. Be with yourself, breathe, and turn the searchlight of your attention inward, seeing the emotions. All you have to do is shed the light of your attention on them, acknowledge them, be vulnerable for as long as you feel you can. Be with it for that moment, for a moment at a time. Be with it, see it, when you've done everything else, you can disrupt your habits a little bit. If you're eating late at night, organise your schedule so you're not near the fridge late at night. If you're eating when you're bored, you can put food out of the reach of temptation, or you can change where you're working, or you can put extra energy into enjoying your work, bringing in interesting cacti to put on your desk and telling yourself that today you're not going to be bored, you're going to take as much interest as possible in the work that you have to do and find meaning in your work, and so on. All of this, Jenny, is an act of creativity, recreating the images that you have of how you'd like to be and how you'd like to be living, and trying to make those happen rather than putting all of your focus on, I must stop this shouldn't be happening, I've got to stop it, stamp it out, rein it in, put the brakes on. Putting all of your energy into that inspired place. Where do you want to go? How would you like your life to look? What would an unbored life look like? What would an untired you look like? And what would it take to create an untired you? How could you be if you weren't stressed? And what can you do to actually take action to reduce the stress in your life? Your creativity, your ability to use your imagination to visualize what you'd like, to create rituals, habits that you would like to have. These are all already in your power, Jenny. When you stop feeling like a rabbit in the headlights, overwhelmed by the too many different eating challenges that you have, and you start to unravel them, each one is an absolute treasure chest of information for you about your life and how you can transform it. Jenny, I wish you well. Now listen, guys, if Jenny's question has resonated with you, or any of the things that I've said, I want to hear it. Jump into the comments section. Don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. And if you'd like to see your question given some real deep coaching on this channel on a Friday, you go to www.lauraloyd.co/contact-2. I'll put the link underneath, and you click on the green button, which is a voice record, and you have 3 minutes to tell me as much as possible about what's going on for you. The more detail and the more emotionally open you can be, the more I can coach you right from this video. And thank you so much, Jenny, for sharing it. If any of this resonates you, please give Jenny some love in the comments section, because eating challenges can make us feel ashamed and alone. And I'm doing this sensational eating to try to bust open that shame and give us a different, more loving approach to ourselves, the cul-de-sacs that we find ourselves in, and to try and create a momentum, a cultural momentum of love and self-love.